What's up, guys? Tambo here with your weekly core report. It's another monster week for Run Pure Sports members, including another Millie Maker shipper. Let's get to the winners. The World Cup continued to print for our members. Rubio and Jaime have been producing winning content throughout the event, and last week was no different. IPT 007 hit for 6K. K. Reed won 7K. Bobby Hare hit for 10K, while Rubio himself shipped another 16K. We pride ourselves in offering just about every sport for one low price. We'll put our content for all sports up against any competitor when it comes to producing winners. Steve Boynton has been on fire in college basketball, helping our members ship, as well as himself hitting for 2K. Jay Gingery 912 joined him, winning 3K. In the MMA streets, Hoop shipped for 30K using Titletown's playbook. And it's not just on DraftKings where we produce the winners. For Prize Picks this week, Du Bois hit for $500, and C. McDonald 1016 won $2,500 using our NBA Prize Picks content. Speaking of NBA, Jesse Samek hit for 6K, while Mangone nailed his core and shipped for 8K. This has been a successful NFL season for Run Pure Sports, making people a ton of money. This week, we produced our second Millie Maker winner of the year. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already to access all our free NFL content. Our members' ROI has been off the charts this season. In week 13, You Should Be turned $80 into 8K. Motor City 2 DFW turned $50 into 5K. King of the North hit for 15K, and I finished in 6th place in the King of the Beach contest, winning 40K. But the biggest winner by far was RPS member Alicia Hunt, who turned $240 into over $1 million.
So typically what I do is I'll go over, the core plays, look at BigT stuff a lot. And what I did was I took bits and pieces of what I liked, and then I threw in some of the stuff that I like.
Congrats again to all our members. If you want to be featured in the core report, drop your winning lineup in the Members Never Win channel in our premium Discord. If you're not a member, join now. You won't find a better value, all sports included, for one low price. While you're watching, hit that like button now. Remember, if you're not winning with us, you're watching us win. Till next time, let's keep running pure.
What is going on, everyone? It's AP over here at Run Pure Sports, bringing to you once again the lineup building show with our partner Sabersim. We got my guy Jordan. Jordan, what is going on, my man? We got a fun game tonight. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Yeah, classic December Thursday night football game here. Two bad teams. Don't even know what quarterback's starting for one of them right now. But a lot of money up top, big tournaments like always here. So should be a good game to break down a little bit on stream today. Sometimes these can be fun ones too. I think the field doesn't always know what to do with these games when you have two bad teams playing. So should be a good one to break down.
I'm going to go out there and say we have one bad team for sure.
Okay.
In the Rams. I don't know, man. I like what I'm seeing with the Raiders right now. Just look at what they're doing and look at kind of what they've had to come through, just injuries and everything, all the situations. But man, like 3 wins in a row, a huge win over the Chargers, divisional game, Broncos, they got the dub there. They played Kansas City, very close. They should have won that game back in October. Mm-hmm. And mixed right in there. They had a 3-game stretch that was pretty bad, just getting skunked by the Saints. They should have beat the Colts. They should have beat the Jags. Like the Raiders, they're just, we talk all the time about how the Chargers are very unlucky, but man, this Raiders team, they've lost so many games that they should have won. And so while I would love to sit and bash them since they're rivals with my Chiefs, I can't do that because this team does have talent. One thing that I really like, especially when we're thinking about showdown formats, they're predictable. Like, look at their target shares. Jacobs, they're going to give him so much volume. Adams, they're going to target him. Mac Hollins, we've seen the targets come up. So we love the predictability, or I guess some of us love the predictability depending on what type of player you are. That's, for me, Jordan, I love NBA because we know 5 guys are going to be on the court.
Mhm.
We have a general idea of what their production is per minute. And so it creates some nice predictability where we can derive, projections from. I think we see that. So like what I'm getting at is tonight's interesting. It's a battle of, do you get unique and how do you do that? Or do you just jam in the best plays, which are the Raiders, which is
Right.
Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, even Mac Hollins, maybe throw Derek Carr in there. And then it's like, for me, the puzzle tonight is, what do we do with the Rams side? We're going to try to tackle that today for everyone. We're going to do it while pulling up Sabersim like we always do. Jordan, I think the best route right now, let's pull up Sabersim. Let's do our base build, which is our first test build that we always do each and every week. We can use cache settings, then we'll go to GPP settings. We'll tell the people all about that and how that works. And we're going to try to solve this puzzle for everyone today. So let me kick it over to you. Let's get Sabersim up and let's get this thing going.
Yeah, I already got the cache build going here. So what we're doing with this build, right? We're building the optimal lineups based on the average projections, right? We're using Sabersim as if it's just any other optimizer out there. The goal of this is to just see what the projections say, right? See what other optimizers are going to be giving people. This is a good way to get an idea of what the highest projected lineups are and what the field's going to do. I typically like to pull this up, run this as our first build here, see who we're getting a captain, and see what the construction of these lineups look like here. And I mean, no surprise, Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams showing up here in a lot of the optimals. Derek Carr, actually, surprisingly, I think, showing up in more than I probably would have initially expected. But the 3 big Raiders here at the top soaking up almost 90%, 80% of the captain usage here. So makes a lot of sense, right? The 3 highest projected guys, I think, overwhelmingly going to be the most popular plays, and probably in GPPs more to Jacobs and Adams there. Then one thing I like to look at here is just to see what the stack types look like. And we don't see this that often, but tonight, overwhelmingly 4 2s followed by the 5 1s. No surprise to anyone, probably, that most of those 5 1s are going to be on the Raiders side. So we're going to see Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, probably a little bit of Derek Carr at the captain, and overwhelmingly 4 2, 5 1 Raiders types builds. So one thing I do like to kind of go and see as well in here is just to get an idea of like, what are the perceived value plays? What are the cheap guys that are going to get tossed into lineups here a lot? And you see Keelan Cole, 200 salary at flex, projected for just under 5 points, showing up in a ton of builds with cash just because of what he lets you do on the other side. And then a lot of like very low salary Rams here seem to be the guys that are kind of getting thrown in as that last piece on the 5 1s or one of those pieces in the 4 2s. So Austin Trammell, Bryson Hopkins, Lance McCutcheon, right? Like all these kind of random guys that have been a little bit involved in that offense as the Rams have been so banged up, kind of showing up. So you get an idea of what that base cash build is going to look like. It's going to be Jacobs or Adam captain, onslaught for the Raiders, and then probably like a very cheap Rams piece thrown in to make it work. So that's what I'm typically liking to look at here.
Yeah, Keelan Cole, dirt cheap min price, was on 60% of the routes ran, or no, snaps. He's 70% of snaps, 21 routes ran last week. So, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. He is a guy that could. So here's like the interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I look at like Keelan Cole, why is he showing up in cash optimals? It's because exactly what you said. It's what he gives you. If he gets like one 60, 50 yard bomb or something like that, you're kind of mint because we know the volume that Josh Jacobs is going to get or likely to get, and same with Devontae Adams. So it's like it allows you to get those 2 pieces in there very easy. But it does seem like he's going to be a value piece that gets some ownership just because of that. So that's an interesting discussion point. So can you go back to stack types real quick?
Yeah.
Just for anyone that's new out there, what's a 5-1 stack? That just means you have 5 pieces from one team, 1 run back from the other. And I would argue that all those 5 1s are likely to be Raiders, right?
Yes. Looks like 100% of them.
Yeah, 100% of them. I don't even know how you would build a 5-1 on the Rams side when you just look at it. So a lot of interesting stuff when you have the chalk being these 5-1 stacks. We've seen this before in like, I think Philly games. We've seen it in other situations where it seems so obvious. Then when the game played out, it was like, well, what, like it was a 3-3 one, not a 5-1. And the game played out so much different than what we all thought. I don't know, man. I just, gosh, I try to come into the show. I try to, when I'm prepping, doing my stuff, I try to be like, yeah, let's find ways to get off the chalk. Let's find ways to get different. I'm having a very difficult time. And sometimes, our guy Big T says it all the time. When you get these spots, just jam it all in. Why make it harder than you have to? So again, kind of where I'm at is, and why I'm glad we're doing the show. I do love where kind of the cash projections are. I love how those builds look. I love the Raiders 5-1s. I love the Raiders 4-2s. Like I tried looking at some 3-3s before the show, Jordan. I'm like, they all look terrible. So it's going to be really interesting. Let's start back over. I'm curious. The one thing I didn't do before this is I didn't run it using the GPP settings, which is for tournaments. Putting the slider, maxing it out all the way to 10 sim diversity. You want to just tell the people what is going on with this setting right here?
Yeah, so this is awesome for showdowns. Highly recommend using your sliders this way. So sim diversity at 10. Basically what this is going to do is every lineup in our pool we're building here is going to be a single game optimal for a play-by-play game simulation of this game tonight, right? So we're simming this game out, like literally play by play, all the different ways it could play out here. I think 5,000 times. And then you can see, if you click on a player, you can see what that individual player scores in all these different sims. When you're building on 10 sim diversity, you're getting an optimal for one of those game sims, which is what we're trying to do in Showdown, right? They're going to play this game once tonight. You want the optimal or very close to that optimal to take things down. So you're going to get a lot more diversity here. You're going to get a lot more variance in your build. You're going to get lineups that kind of represent the full range of possible outcomes here. Better tournament lineups than what you'll get for those cash builds. So I'm interested to see how this shakes out as well. Sometimes we run that cash build and there's a big difference when we flip over and run that GPP build. Sometimes it's actually a little bit similar. Those aren't as different as we expect. So I'm interested to see what we're getting with those captains, what these constructions look like here from this GPP build.
Yeah, I am too. One thing I know we're going to see, this is kind of one of the debates that we always have too, is how many captains do you want in your pool? One thing that I said last week is it really depends on the slate. Some slates, I feel a lot better about having, more captains in the pool. Other slates, I really try to get and try to isolate it down to 2, 3, 4 captains. I don't know, Jordan. I think tonight, like for me, it's like, why overthink it when I can play Devontae Adams? I can play Josh Jacobs, and put those two guys at the captain spot. The one thing that I did have to do is I had to like, kind of look and justify what about some of these other, cheaper pieces like a Mac Hollins or something in the captain, because the target share has been there. And if he could catch one deep, Adams likely to get, a tougher matchup. Like I don't think Jalen Ramsey is the type to shadows or anything like that, but those two definitely have some history against each other. But I don't know. I actually don't really worry about those type of things too much, especially in showdown formats. I would actually consider it more if that was going to have a big impact on ownership. And I don't see that being the case tonight. I see Adams, Jacobs being very popular. So it has me looking at, Mac Hollins, and then, Josh Jacobs, there is an injury, he does have that quad issue. I don't know. I just think anytime any questionable type stuff comes up with him, what happens? He gets 30 carries and absolutely smashes. So I'm just like, do I really want to question that or try to talk myself into, bumping him down or fading him? I don't think so today. So, all right, we got 12 captains in the GPP settings. Is that right?
Yeah, in 50 lineups here. At least on the initial run here. And you can see it's still a lot of Jacobs and Adams. In the pool, in the entire pool of 1,500, they're soaking up a little over half of the lineups between the two of them. Interesting angle, though, here, I think, with the Raiders defense at captain. I'm not the biggest defense at captain guy in Showdown, but pop it up quite a bit, and it actually looks like people really aren't going to get there too much tonight. We didn't see it at all in the cash build. We're not seeing it very much in the ownership projection, so I think that's an interesting angle here. A little bit of Carr, and then you see some of the value pieces pop up a little bit, and also some of the pass catchers on the Rams side, right? Tutu Atwell here, Van Jefferson, deep threat speed guys, probably just takes one play at their salary to get there, and then a couple of the other Raiders skill position players. So, first glance, I would say similar to what we saw in the cash build, but the Raiders defense play does jump out to me a little bit. I wasn't expecting to see that.
Do you think that the Raiders defense at 5,200 in the flex position is going to get some ownership tonight?
Yeah, I think it's probably very likely that they do. I'm curious where they project. They are projected to be the 5th highest owned play in the flex, according to the ownership projection. So I think that's going to be pretty popular. I'm going to go back and look at that cash build real quick one more time.
So that's a first note that we can make right there. I love fading that. So I love a lot of chalky plays, but not a chalky defense. And especially in a situation where, one, like the Raiders defense hasn't been that good all season. Mm-hmm. And two, you know what the Rams are going to do. We've kind of started to see it. They're going to have a very vanilla game plan. Like, I think they're going to, like if I'm the Rams, I would build a game plan out like I did against Kansas City, like I did last week against the Seahawks, relying on the run game, mixing in Cam Akers, Kyron Williams, limiting the opportunities for turnovers, even though, well, what did he throw? 2 picks last week against Seattle, 26 throw. Yeah. 2 interceptions. So, those are things that's going to push that ownership up on the Raiders defense. And the Raiders just haven't been, like, on paper, this defense should have been a lot better. They should be, have the ability to, get tons and tons of pressure on the quarterback and, create a bunch of sacks, but we haven't really seen that. And man, I don't know. I feel pretty good about fading the Raiders defense, definitely fading the Rams defense. So how about that? Are you okay with that? Like a first rule, we just get the defenses out of there?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I think you'll probably find a way to get quite a bit different with that here tonight. So are you talking about doing that in just the flex spot or captain too? Because I do think that captain angle is a little interesting there based on the exposure and the ownership projection there.
I don't know. I'm not one to play defenses in the captain spot. That's just especially when we have all right. So think about it. You're talking, we know Josh Jacobs is going to get a ton of work. We know Devontae Adams, the targets are going to be there. I just feel so good about those 2 plays. I even like Matt Collins. I feel very good about the target share that he's going to get. I can't go a defense over the predictability that we're going to get from those 2 players at least. So that's why I keep going back to, like, why am I not just, maybe 3 captains max for me, and it's Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams for sure. And then I'm struggling to find who would that third guy be. Maybe Derek Carr. I feel like if I'm going Derek Carr, I'd rather go Devontae Adams,
right.
I feel like if I'm going Derek Carr, I'd almost rather go another a skill maker in Matt Collins. We've seen him have a monster game earlier this season, and the targets have been there. 9 targets last week, 9 against Denver, 6 against Indy, 5 against Seattle. So, the targets are definitely there. He's becoming kind of a staple in this offense of a guy that Carr's looking at. So Jacobs, Adams, Hollins, that's kind of where I'm, Foster, Moreau, you could look at him too, kind of a bounce back spot. 3, only 1 catch last week. But the week before that, 7 targets. So I don't know. I'm, wanting to almost like mix and match. Like, all right, what about this? Is there a way to create a group, all of those players, but we don't want all of them stacked together? Like, all the lineups have to have some kind of combination of at least 2 or 3 of Derek Carr, Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, Matt Collins, and then Foster Moreau. And then, I don't know, do we fade Keelan Cole? Because, he's going to be, we talked about it. If we faded Keelan Cole and instead of going Keelan Cole, we get our value piece from the Rams side as the run back. What do you think about that?
I like it. I'm kind of building out a rule here as you're talking. I think that's a good approach here. So basically what I've done here is I've limited the captain pool for the next build we do to Jacobs, Adams, Hollins, and Moreau here. And then, yeah, I think we build a rule with all four of those guys in the captain, and then also them at the flex spot. And we'll toss in Carr there. We'll toss in Cole. And if I understood you correctly, I'm thinking no more than 3, right? So we're not playing in any lineup. We're not getting Jacobs, Adams, Carr. Well, I mean, we're not getting any more than 3 of that group of players. Is that kind of what you're thinking there?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like that. And I think that's the main thing. I'm good. You know, even the Sims are into, you know, really embracing the Jacobs and Adams plays at captain here tonight. But I do think we got to think of ways that we are going to get a little bit different, right? So we're not ending up in like that 500, 1,000 lineup train at the end of the night here with our build. So yeah, I like that approach. Is there any, you know, one thing I was thinking too, is there a pass catcher on the Rams side or just a player on that side in general that you kind of like, that you've got an angle on here? I think there is an opportunity to bump it. No, okay.
I'm just kidding. No, I mean, no, I'm mainly being a little facetious there, but
yeah,
no, I mean, like, I mean, I would like to say no, but
yeah.
I mean, I don't like, it is tough, like Van Jefferson, but what's his price tag?
He's 64.
64. So, I mean, he's right in that range with Foster, Moreau.
Right.
Like, I think it's more like the running backs. I think I feel better about the running backs than the receivers here. Like honestly, and I got some digging to do, but like, all right, Cam Akers, Kyron Williams, they obviously, you know, Cam Akers, I believe, dominated the rush share and is likely to. But I think, you know, we were talking before the show, and Simon was talking about how, you know, this is a spot where they can start looking at some of these younger guys. So it would not, like, I think Cam Akers and Kyron Williams are both very much in play here. I think as far as the receivers goes, Tutu Atwell,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he went from week 11 to having 1 route ran to 10 to 14, you know, so if that trend continues, that means he's getting 18 to 20 routes this week. And you can throw on this Raiders defense. That's definitely one thing that you can do. So I would put him into the mix. I honestly wish I had a better read on some of these receivers. I really, really don't. I have a much better read on, like, you know, the running back situation, but it's the receivers that are very tough, you know, in like Skowronek, like, I don't like, I mean, what's his price tag? Like, look what he's done. So like, they've been in this situation for a little while. Like, thinking back to the Chiefs game, you know, Kansas City was ahead the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the Rams kept it respectable. They definitely did. But what did he get? He got 2 receptions for 5 yards. What he followed up with against Seattle, 2 receptions, 30 yards. So like, what's his price tag here?
Where was it? I just had it up in front of me. Where'd he go? 4.8.
4.8. Like, how are we even like considering this guy? Like, how does he beat us? He hasn't beat us. So like, he's been in a you know, primary role where he's getting, you know, 100% of the snaps last week, 63% the week before, 84 the week before that, and he's done nothing. Like, so like, how in the world is he going to beat us here? So I just think that's like I think I might just uncheck him. And then, you know, Van Jefferson would be like a bet on talent, but you're hoping the quarterback can get him the ball there. Maybe he breaks. Like Van Jefferson, I would definitely be more likely to play than Skowronek. Tutu Atwell, I think we keep him in the pool as well. And then, he had four rush attempts last week too. So, I mean, yeah, he's definitely a better play than Skowronek. Any of these other receivers that you have interest in, like Brandon Powell?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not unchecking any other players here.
I like Brandon Powell a lot, actually. So, like, what they're doing is, they're getting these. I actually shout out to Simon producing right now. He hopefully he's fist pumping, but yeah, I like what they're doing. Like, they're getting some of these guys mixed in. They're handing them the ball. They're creating opportunities for them. So I think what we do is, with that rule, we or not even a rule, but we uncheck Keelan Cole and we get our value through Brandon Powell. through Tutu Atwell.
Yeah.
I think, but we create the rule there. We limit it to only one. Like, I don't know if I want two of those guys in the lineup. I would rather have them mixed with, like, if let's just say it's a 4-2. I would rather have them in there with a Cam Akers or a Kyren Williams with my 4 from the Raiders side. What do you think about that?
I like it. Yeah. So we're saying here, so remind me again who's in this rule here for the Rams. So we're going to say use no more than one.
We got chat saying Powell's banged up. Let me check my injury report.
He is questionable.
He's questionable, but look, man, if he, all right, so yeah, he banged up, but if he's good to go and if he's super cheap, then I'm not going to eliminate him from my pool. That's why we have this rule created too. Maybe he is more banged up than he is. We're not overexposed to him through the rule there because we're getting one max of like a Brandon Powell, a Tutu Atwell. So I do like that rule. And then I would say in that rule too, maybe it's a separate rule, but we want one max of Kyren Williams and Cam Akers. I don't know if I want both. It's very difficult for me to think of a situation where both guys are optimal. I mean, it definitely could happen, but I kind of like having the rule of a max one of those two.
Yeah, well. I like it. Yeah. So I've got all three there. We've got our original rule limiting how many Raiders we're getting, no more than 3 from that group, no more than 1 of kind of the Rams passing attack, basically, and no more of 1 from the Rams rushing attack. I kind of like this. I think, I really like also the Keelan Cole fade and the defense fade here, because I think that's going to allow us a way
I would
to
love
play.
to fade Tyler Higbee too. I don't like that guy.
Let's do it. I can't. I feel like he's let me down in the main slates. Like,
yeah, he's been terrible.
4 or 5 slates.
He always gets ownership too. I'm telling you, he always projects well. Like, look at that projection right there, 8.54. That's like a pretty good overly fair projection for him, in my opinion. And then the quarterback projection, maybe we on the Rams side, should we bump that down just a little bit?
Yeah, we don't even know if this is going to be the guy tonight either. I mean, it
Right.
sounds like Baker has a legitimate chance to start here tonight. That will just be a whole other wrinkle into this game too, because we don't know exactly who he's going to key in on. But yeah, I'm fine knocking that down.
Is Baker in the field? Is he in the?
Let's see.
Look. Yeah, he is.
He's in the player pool. So. And I mean, I think he has a pretty decent chance that he starts. I mean, they claimed him. They went out and got him. I think there's a chance that he's the guy. They said he knows the playbook.
Oh man, like just the rate. Like, I'd probably play him over. It's Dusty. So he is in the flex. He is about the same price as Wolford. Okay.
Yeah,
we could just make the case to fade both quarterbacks. I mean, I don't know if I want to like get involved with that situation. I think both guys are pretty dusty. Like, all right, let's just say Mayfield is trending towards playing tonight. Do you think that would just steam his ownership up? Like, do you think everyone would start thinking, oh, okay, no one's going to play him, whatever. Now he ends up much higher owned. In that scenario, I'm not playing him. I think the fade would be better. But if no one plays him, and he was very, very, very low owned, then I would have more interest in playing him.
Yeah, I think I'd probably be a little interested if we find out that he's the starter. I think even just partially, they said that it's going to come out in the pregame warmups. And so, I think well, go ahead.
Yeah, here's how kind of sick I am. I would rather it just be like, we don't know what's going to happen, but, like the talk be somewhat favorable about seeing him. But then like, Wolford starting, which means no one's going to play Baker Mayfield, and then having a little bit of him in your pool,
sprinkle a little bit in there.
Then if it was just announced that, we're starting Baker Mayfield, because then everyone's going to play him. Under that scenario, I'd probably just rather fade him, because it's like you've been there for a couple days. Like we've seen these spots where these guys, and now it's usually rookies, like they come in their first game and they just get destroyed. They put up like 4.5, 5 fantasy points or something. It's just an absolute disaster. I just don't see how that would be the case here as well. So I don't know. For me, it's purely ownership. If I knew it was going to be like unowned, I have interest. If I know he's going to get, like, if it was announced that he was in or whatever starting, I just feel like at that price tag for a quarterback, he gets steamed up and would be higher owned than what we would want.
Yeah, I think it really depends on when we get that news. I think there's a chance if it's late and you get some people asleep at the wheel. Most projections are saying it's Wofford tonight here. So if it's Baker at the last second, I think I have a little bit of interest again, just because hoping that people don't really adjust in time, but hard to be excited about really either guy in there tonight. I'm fine just fading them for this build here.
All right. Yeah, let's run this thing.
I think let's
shout out to chat. We got a lot of people in there dishing it out. Deshaun Harper, sorry if we took your build. I guess we landed on a build that he was on. So, I mean, that's going to be common.
I think it is.
I think it's going to be a night to where we have to accept that there's the likelihood that this thing gets chopped many different ways. So I think that's a discussion point too, because when we get nights like that, I do like capping how many builds I have. I don't go like the whole 150. Like, I think it's like you can go 50 if you know like what ideally like the builds are going to look like, and you just don't think, like your gut's telling you it's not going to be max the uniques type of night. I don't see there being any issue just like dialing back how many builds that you're running and focusing on the best builds. Yep. That's a strategy that I've done, quite a few times as well. So if you haven't yet out there, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. We're doing these shows each and every week for free for all of you. And so we appreciate it. Subscribe, hit the like button, run pure as always. Where are we at with the lineup builder here?
Yeah, it's coming along here. One thing to note too, we do have more rules in place on this one.
That's
here. Right. We got a limited player pool. It's going to take a little bit longer, but we'll get through it here shortly. Do
we have anything new coming out with Saber?
There is something new out. Maybe it'd be a good opportunity here. I'll show you. We added lineup filters for after the build, which can be pretty nice, especially in Showdown where you want those sim optimals coming out of the build. You can now filter by projection, lineup percentile, ownership, all kinds of stuff after the build. So might be a good opportunity. Actually, we can show how to do that here as soon as this one closes up.
We got go collect. Baker doesn't strike me as the guy who is going to learn the playbook while flying into town on a plane. I'm with you, man. I'm definitely with you there. I don't see him as being that type of guy either, but who knows?
Yeah, that's what
I mean. I like put talent around him. We saw what he did for Oklahoma. I mean, that was ages ago. So I don't know. I think he's pretty dusty, but do I think he would be better than what they currently have? Yes, I do. I really do, because John Wolford looked really bad last week. I mean, that's another debate. Like, how isn't he an upgrade, right? Like, we all know he's dusty. We know what Baker Mayfield is, but come on, like to honestly say you don't think he's an upgrade from what they currently have, I don't know. I think that's a mistake.
Yeah, he's got to be. I mean, he flashed it a little bit too in Cleveland, and I mean, it's definitely an upgrade. Like, I would not be surprised to see the Vegas total adjust for that as well, like, and get a little bit more points on that Rams implied total if we hear it's Baker, just because it almost has to be an upgrade in my mind. So we got the build here. Go ahead.
Yeah, here's another thing. So it was the game plan, not the playbook that he knows. Okay, that I kind of get that, and what we should take from that, if that is the case, is they're going to pound the rock. They're going to find ways to get whatever skill position, players that they have left the ball, which is like what they did last week. So a lot of rush attempts is kind of what I'm seeing here. Play a very, very safe game plan, which I don't know. I think we're kind of on the right path here. Fading the defenses, loading up on the Raider side, but let's see what the build got us.
Yeah, and I want to show this off real quick because I meant to do this last week and we ran out of time. So this new button here is our lineup filters, and this will basically let you eliminate lineups from your pool that don't meet certain thresholds. So I mean, if you want to do this from salary, ownership, projected score, Saber score, I know some people sometimes want to target certain Saber scores or lineup percentiles. You can do this pretty easy. One thing, an angle that I think is a little bit interesting here tonight, especially if we're playing the chalkier captains. The cash builds here have an ownership sum of like around 167-ish. I think there's an interesting idea here of saying, what if we eliminate some of the lineups that are kind of close to that? So maybe we come over here and say ownership. We're going to hide lineups with ownership greater than, I don't know, maybe 155 or something, and just we can see what this does here. We'll save that. and see it's basically just trimming off some of these lineups off the top here. We could go a little bit lower than that.
Can you look at those lineups that we trimmed? Is that the trash button right there?
So this is going to be the trash here. Yeah. So you're seeing we're basically just cutting off like the chalkiest lineups off the top here. And you can kind of play with this. I recommend not like eliminating massive chunks of your pool here, but it can be a good way to like clean up a little bit here. And, you know, in the builds that we're playing, Jacobs and Adams captain, we're getting to, you know, a little bit less chalky versions of those lineups based on who's getting thrown in there. So
that's pretty
these
interesting.
Are the trashy one. Yeah. These are the ones.
So, I mean, we're running a script that's going to be popular. But what we're doing is in step 3, adding in some rules to try to identify the, you know, leverage routes on the chalky route that we want to go. Is that a correct interpretation there? Okay, very good.
I think there might be some people watching like, hey, Jordan, can't I do this with a rule before the build? Like what's new about this? And the answer is yes, you can. You can set a rule that says don't build me lineups that are over this certain ownership. But when we do it after the build, we're still letting those sims work, right? When you set it before the build, you're altering the sim there and saying, you know, even if this lineup is good, don't build it, build me something else. This way is basically just eliminating lineups that you don't want to play, because we're not playing 1500 anyway, so we might as well trim some off here. So can be pretty useful. Forgot to mention this last time. This actually came out last week, so I think this can be a good one. And you can do this again. This is just ownership. I know people say common one I hear is NFL main slate. I want my lineups all to be projected, you know, X amount. You can do that here as well.
Are you all right? So the min number of uniques, this was a concept that we were typically using on a main slate. Are you ever using that in Showdown, or are you mainly sticking to main slate formats with that?
I definitely prefer it a lot more for main slates. I think you can at least experiment with it on the Showdowns. I would just be careful. What you'll find, since it's only 6 guys here, is increasing this, especially if you're playing 150, will get you going really deep into your pool really quick. Like you can see, let's see if we go to 3. We're all of a sudden, you know, at lineup 1371 just by going to 3 min unique. So I think it's really, really useful for main slates. I would proceed with caution on the Showdowns, just because you only have so many players in your pool. It's hard to get a ton of min uniques.
Gosh, I'm just trying to, if one of these random, like, I think tonight it's like you gotta, if you can pinpoint the captain, that's going to be a big part of the equation. I know that sounds kind of dumb, because obviously it's Showdown. That's what we're trying to do each and every time. Tonight, it just, gosh, if you can just through process of elimination or whatever, figure out if like what's a scenario where a Rams guy ends up optimal captain. Doesn't it have to be like the game is lower scoring than we thought, that the points through Jacobs and Adams kind of is a little dispersed evenly versus like one of them just going off. And then it would be like a random guy, like a Tutu Atwell, or one of these guys like taking a reverse screen to the house or something like that, or just some random play where they gobble up a bunch of yards and it's a house call type of thing. Now, I do think that's more likely with one of the running backs, but you know, some of those builds to where you do have a cheap value piece of the captain, and then you have your Jacobs, Adams, quarterback in there, you know, Carr, all in the flex, plus a kicker, and then maybe one other piece. That's the only other thing that I can think of. But man, outside of that, I'm just set on like getting very overweight on Adams and Jacobs at the captain. I did want to do one other thing. So yeah, I wanted to run one other script and end on it, just like a crazy script with this, if we're ready. So if we want to just delete all of our rules.
Cool. Yeah,
this is another thing I do. And so let me preface this with, this is not what I think is going to happen. The purpose of the show is to highlight the tool, the Sabersim, you know, our partners there, and all the different things that you can do with it. Let's run what if we just saw a crazy Rams win 27-20 or something like that? Just like where we adjust something crazy. Who knows? I'm just curious to see how the projections are adjusted here with the Sims.
Yeah, and so what this does is basically we're going into that that database of sims we have for the game, looking at the subset where the final score on average is 27-20 and adjusting all the player projections accordingly. So it can be really nice if you like to play those game scripts, don't want to adjust every player yourself. This will basically do it for you here. So I think this is an interesting angle.
So then the other thing, let's uncheck. Let's just say that Baker Mayfield's going to start.
Okay.
So I mean, obviously the projections on your end, on our end too, they're not going to reflect that until the news actually hits. So we're manually having to do this. Let's put in the same. There you go. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
I just want to see how it looks
here, and I'm going to make sure we just exclude Wofford here. So yeah, let's run this. Other angle,
don't play both guys. I mean, if you want a unique, play both quarterbacks, Wofford and Mayfield. You're not going to win, but you'll be unique. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I think another angle that I'll probably run when we hop off here that I'm interested to see is that we just get a terrible game. Like, I kind of want to see what it looks like if, it's, I don't know, 13-10 Raiders maybe or something, and just see, is the double kick or double defense. I think the Raiders, I see them play down to their opponents sometimes. I think they've played well with good teams. I think they've played bad against bad teams. I think there's a chance that this game ends up being closer and really low scoring tonight if we get that version of the Raiders out there.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen. They've been pretty good at putting up points, and then they've been bad enough defensively to where, like, even the Broncos. So I thought that was going to be the case with the Broncos game, 22-16. So we still got points there. I think in that scenario, I definitely would have more interest in the kickers, and then your raw floor guys like your Adams, because we know the targets are going to be there. And obviously PPR format, he's going to get, a boost just off all the targets he's getting. Baker
there's
captain.
There's your guy.
There's the crazy script right there. But
yeah, let's open this
is what
up
I wanted to highlight. Like, you're not like these. If you wanted to get super unique, you're 5-1s on the Rams side. But like, how do you even play that lineup? Like, it's very difficult to envision a scenario where those are the winning ones. But hey, it's showdown. It definitely could happen.
I mean, here's an interesting way to look at this too. This is 27-20, right? I mean, it's probably long odds to get this outcome, but we're playing an angle where the Rams give the game. Devontae Adams still showing up 15% of the optimals as the captain spot. The guy that looks like he gets game scripted out of the game here, if the Rams make this competitive, is Josh Jacobs. And I think that makes some sense here. So I think there's an argument that if you want to play an angle that this game goes over and that the Rams win this game, which I think there's some value there, it seems like Josh Jacobs is your fade. I would actually even be okay coming at this and saying like, hey, I'm even going to go over the field on Adams, right? I see him getting involved and then throwing the ball if it's a closer, higher scoring game. But I actually don't hate the idea of being well under on Jacobs if you're playing this kind of game script. So you can kind of use those team totals there in the homepage to do that kind of analysis as well, where you're saying, who's going to get left out? Who's the guy that's least likely to be optimal when I'm playing these different scripts? So I think there's an interesting angle there.
Yeah. Can you scroll through some of these builds too, just to get a better idea of what they're looking like?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's
a lot of 3-3s.
Yeah.
A lot. So the point I also wanted to make is, so you're still, so when we just ran it off the base of the projected script that's supposed to play out, overwhelming dominated with 5-1s, 4-2s on the Raiders side. Mm-hmm. Now we flip that script completely. It's a pricing thing that comes into play, projections as well. You're just not seeing as many, 4-2 Rams, 5-1s Rams that I think are viable to play tonight. So
yeah, it's actually still more Raiders 4-2s, even with this game script.
Isn't that
Rams.
Crazy?
So
it just comes down, and that goes back to, so it kind of proves the point that we're talking about to start the show. The predictability of target share on the Raiders side, I think, is something that we can take advantage of tonight. And I really, after seeing this now, seeing the 4 different build routes that we've ran, I feel very good about where I'm at script wise. And it's just, I think the Raiders get the win tonight. I think Josh Jacobs, phenomenal play. I think Devontae Adams, obviously phenomenal play. Outside of that, though, it comes down to, we got to figure out our captain exposure, and then we got to find a little bit of a way to get different. Doesn't have to be crazy. Maybe it's, the two ideas I think we had that we both kind of liked. The Keelan Cole fade as a value and making sure that value is coming from the Rams side, and then the defenses as well is kind of the route that I believe we were on in that.
Yep.
Any final thoughts on tonight's game, or any takeaways or a favorite play that you want to highlight?
Yeah, I think if I had to just throw one out there, I might be a little bit enamored with that broken play where he scored at last week or the week before. Tutu Atwell, I feel like is probably my favorite play on that Rams side in that Rams passing attack. I mean,
like it.
Yeah, he was nuts in college too. I mean, he's got crazy speed. You're basically asking him to make one big play, and I think he's probably in the optimal. The Rams have an 18.5 implied total in the Sims right now. There are going to be some points scored here. That's probably my favorite play of a guy to toss in there, especially if you're playing a little bit more of an overscript. So that's probably my favorite.
Mine's going to be Keelan Cole, or not Keelan Cole, Matt Collins. And then I really like Derek Carr. So slightly different than what we've been talking about, but I still like Adams and Jacobs, obviously. But when I just think about like a Matt Collins captain with Carr in there, I think it almost forces you to go Jacobs or Adams. So like I'm eating a bunch of chalk, but I'm getting different. And the thing about multi-entering is I can run it both ways, and then I can have a build where I'm, Jacobs Adams too. So for me, it's going to be a function of getting enough combinations in there and then setting some very precise rules that mix and match it. And so Matt Collins, I like him here. I mean, look at he's running the exact same number of routes as Adams. He's on the exact same number of snaps as Adams. He's on the field all the time. He's a downfield threat. All the attention is going to be on Devontae Adams. Really like Matt Hollins here. And I like it's like, I'm not fading Adams. I'm just creating builds in there to where we're eating chalk, where we're getting a little bit different. So that's going to be a key takeaway for where I'm at. And then it's figuring out this Rams side. What about the running backs? Last question for you. Do you have a preference on Cam Akers or Kyron Williams? Or do you think any of the other running backs that are going to be active are in play at all tonight?
I don't think I have a strong stance there. A lot of times with that kind of thing, that I'll just let the Sims kind of help make that decision for me there and see. I was going to say I would let it tie break to ownership as well, but I think given the pricing discrepancy on those guys, I think they're probably going to be similarly owned. So not a strong stance there. I do think there is an interesting angle if you're a believer in the Raiders are going to blow the Rams out tonight, and you're playing that kind of game script. I think Josh Jacobs been a little bit banged up. I think there's a way to say, Amir Abdullah, Zamir White are getting a lot of the workload come the second half, fourth quarter, letting Josh Jacobs rest a little bit. So I like them potentially as a way to build a little bit of a more unique lineup in a popular game script. So I guess that's probably my favorite stance. If I had to pick one, I like the idea of bumping up the projection or maybe just being a little bit over on the backup running backs for the Raiders there.
Okay, I like it. I mean, I think we nailed it last week. We were talking about the non-Allen captain builds, looking at Diggs for leverage, people being worried about the matchup there. So we nailed it last week. I think we're on a similar path this week too. I feel pretty good about it. So if you don't have any other final thoughts, we can get out of here. Any other new all right. So everyone, we need the chat out there to help us out.
Yeah.
Next week, do we want to continue to do Showdown for NFL? Do we want to start covering more NBA? Do we want to start covering NFL main slates? Give us some feedback. Let us know if you want us to continue to do the NFL Showdown slates, which we have a good time doing. And I always think it's a very interesting discussion point. I'm happy to keep doing that. But if we want to dabble elsewhere, I know we're both game too. We just can't read everyone's minds out there. So let us know. Shoot me a DM. Let me know what you like, and we'll make that adjustment. Any other things that we should be expecting here in the future, Jordan?
Yeah, so we're working on a pretty big feature right now that I would say is getting close, and it's the ability. So we always talk about when you run builds before lock, you have your lineup set, and then you have your pool that you can work from. When you're late swapping right now, you don't have that pool. You have each lineup gets late swapped once, and that's kind of what you've got. We're actually getting very close on having pools for late swap, which is really nice because it'll let you adjust exposures. It'll let you set min uniques, do different things like that. Big feature, obviously a lot of testing we're doing on our end. That's where we're in that testing phase. So I think once that comes out, and we are getting close there, would be a good opportunity for us to do an NBA show, talk a little bit of late swap, and we can talk about those pools. We haven't had a chance to do NBA yet this season. I think it makes sense to wait until those late swap pools are out, just because most important part about NBA, if you ask me, is late swapping, but that would be a good one here, and that should be coming in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, very good. So what do we have? What else do we have on tap today? We have the Print Factory coming up with Tambo, JSU, BigT. That is at 3:15 Eastern. And then we have the NBA hardwood. We got a 3-game NBA slate tonight. It looks like a fun slate. I think Rocket Spurs right in the middle there. It's going to be a really good time. So make sure to catch those two shows. With that, good luck tonight, everyone. Run Pier. Simon, get us out of here.